Hello, my name is Raisa Miller, and I'm a faculty member at the Department of Counselor Education at Boise State University. Today, I'm going to be bringing you tip number 2 in supporting brain health and wellness during the time of COVID. This is part 2 of a 6-part series that is being released over a number of weeks. Tip number 2 is cultivate a social baseline. And what I mean by that is that you need to become a social baseline for those in your life, whether it be partners or children, to help build regulatory circuitry in the brain. Social baseline theory was developed by Bex Cohen and other colleagues, and it just says that being in connection with trusted others is our brain's baseline condition. In other words, what it expects and how it functions best. Social proximity with safe others down regulates the brain's vigilance system. The brain doesn't have to work as hard to deal with challenges. And that is really important because we do not have limitless supply of regulatory abilities. We don't, and our children who are still developing those circuitries certainly don't. In one series of studies, the researchers found that women who were undergoing electric shocks that were holding the hand of their partner had less activation in that threat response circuitry. In fact, the better the relationship, the less activation they had, meaning that they were able to face that challenge without having their brain work so hard. If you're interested in knowing a little bit more about this theory, if you're intrigued, I have a link to a podcast with Jim Cohen, one of the scientists that developed this theory, that you can listen to and learn more. But if at this point you're just like, what does this mean? I will have some practical tips to share with you. The practical tips are around behaviors that you can engage in to help you be that safe baseline for your kids. And in doing so, helping them build brain regulatory or the brain circuitry for regulation. So the caring habits are things like supporting, encouraging, listening, accepting, respecting, and negotiating differences. The 7 deadly habits are things like criticizing, blaming, complaining, nagging, threatening, punishing, bribing, or rewarding to control. Those are all things that would disconnect you from your child ultimately and activate their threat response system. So an example might be that you ask your child to clean their room. That's a reasonable request, but what if your child responds by yelling at you to get out, or crying, or even just flat out refusing and not listening to you to do that? Those would all be signs that your child's threat response system is activated and that you could respond in a way that serves as a baseline for them. So instead of responding by punishing them, by bribing them, so in other words, by saying, you can't be on your cell phone, you can't use your phone for 2 days after yelling at me like that. Or if you clean your room, we can go out for ice cream. Those would all be deadly habits. Or criticizing them by saying something like, you're such a jerk for yelling at me like that, or nagging, and you have to clean your room, it's been a week. All those things, not helpful. Instead, you would want to join with them and help identify, by saying something like, it seems like you're really upset right now. How can I help you calm down? Do you need a hug? Do you just want me to, or maybe just sitting there and listening? And then once they calm down, being able to talk about what they did and set limits on that behavior, but then really respecting that they're a human and deserving a choice, trusting that together you can find a way forward, supporting and encouraging them, listening to what's really going on behind that behavior. Why were they so sensitive to your comment? What was so threatening about that? What does that say about their baseline stress level that they're dealing with right now? So being able to do and join with your child in all of those ways would, again, really serve to be that social baseline to help conserve their regulatory capacity and even build stronger regulatory circuitry. So that is the second tip for today, to help a little bit about social baseline theory and help building regulatory circuitry for your kids. I hope that this information was helpful for you, and I look forward to joining you again next week for my third tip for brain health and wellness.